From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Hard work pays off for one Texas team.
That's going to pay for my college.
How his restoration efforts have landed him some big bucks. Listening to the land.
I want to go out and observe what the land is trying to tell me and make my decisions based off of that.
How generations of producers have led the conservation effort at one farm in Iowa. Plus, how many acres of corn, soybeans, and wheat are being planted this year? We get an early look at some predictions right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Later this month, USDA will release its predictions for how many acres of corn, soybeans, and wheat farmers will plant this year. But before that, commodity firm Allendale is releasing its own acreage predictions. AgDay's Michelle Rook has details.
Clinton, Allendale's estimates are based on an annual nationwide survey they conduct with farmer clients from February 27th through March 11th, and it covers 24 states. The results indicate an increase in total principal acres over 2022 and an increase in every category except durum and spring wheat. Cotton was not included. Allendale's 2023 corn acreage survey results indicate farmers intend to plant 90.42 million acres, which is up over 1.8 million acres from 2022. However, this is close to USDA's 91 million acre figure released in the Ag Outlook Forum and above what Allendale officials expected.
Obviously, with our recent rally, or I should say decline in December corn, which has changed that new crop soybean versus corn ratio a bit. In addition, there's still some questions about profitability on corn, especially as profits are right now pretty much right at break evens for new crop bids. We had expected maybe a curtail in some of this aggressive corn planting intention.
Soybean acreage is pegged at 87.77 million. That's up 318,000 from last season and the third highest plantings ever. This was also a surprise and below expectations, as Nelson says they looked for an increase in acres of 1 to 1.5 million.
We still have plenty of acres available for this year with preventive plant as well as lower numbers out of cotton. So the question was, who actually gets this distribution of extra acres? And certainly with profitability being a little better on soybeans for many producers, we expected maybe something that 1.5, maybe even 2 million acre higher.
Allendale's all wheat estimate is up nearly 3 million acres at 48.71 million, and the highest in 7 years. However, it's below USDA's estimate because their survey showed durum acres down 57,000 and all spring wheat acres down 228,000. Winter wheat is up 3.25 million acres. Now, Allendale used USDA's percent harvested and trend yield estimates to come up with implied corn production of just under 15 billion bushels, 1.3 billion over last year, and the third largest on record. Soybean production is estimated at 4.52 billion, which would be a record, and 246 million bushels over last year. Wheat production pegged at 1.86 billion, 205 million over last year.
All right, thanks, Michelle. Another story we're continuing to follow: too much rain and snow in California. Crews working on emergency repairs to the Pajaro River levee in Monterey County, a key ag area. The levee was damaged due to the atmospheric river that caused a breach. Heavy rain triggering evacuation orders in the area and concern about landslides. The persistent heavy rain and melting snow are expected to flood regions still recovering from recent deadly storms.
Rivers rising, especially in the Central Valley of California. Later this week, we are expecting some record high river levels. One gauge that is expecting a record crest is along the San Joaquin River at Patterson, which is a heavily agricultural community along the river with record flooding expected. It's going to break a record from 2017 during the February floods that year. We may see worsening impacts as we go through this week and beyond.
Meanwhile, on the East Coast, the first nor'easter of the season brought heavy snow and high winds to the northeast of New England. Several cows were killed when a barn collapsed at a dairy farm in Dracut, Massachusetts. The owners of Shaw Farm saying they, quote, experienced one of life's unexpected challenges, adding no staff members were hurt. Now it's the Southern Plains' turn for some strong weather. Meteorologist Chuck Heaver joins us with that update. Chuck.
Well, we're going to follow the precipitation today through the center part of the country and down to the southeast. You can see the storm pushing up toward the Chicagoland area and snow up towards Minneapolis, and that's going to drag a cold front all the way down to the southeast. You can see potential for severe thunderstorms, Memphis all the way down to Houston, and then that'll carry over to the southeast further on Friday. All right, now, just a little snow these days at Bear Valley Ski Resort in the Sierra Mountains in California. Check out this comparison here. No snow on the left versus all the snow on the right. Even the lifts are almost buried in snow. Well, it's great skiing, I bet. And, well, I'll more in your forecast coming up.
An update to a story we first brought you last year. An Iowa man accused of letting 800 pigs die has died in prison. Now, you might remember the case of 39-year-old Nolan DeWall. Court records say he was hired to raise 2,500 baby pigs in 2021 at his farm in rural Cedar Falls. But a consultant later found hundreds of dead pigs on DeWall's property. The state veterinarian said that at the time, the hogs died of malnutrition and dehydration. Now, he pleaded guilty to one count of bank fraud in an unrelated case last year and was sentenced to 12 months in prison. The Bureau of Prisons says staff found DeWall unresponsive last week, just a day after he arrived at the Leavenworth Penitentiary in Kansas. They say he was housed at a satellite camp next to the actual prison. He was transported to a hospital where he later died. A 76-year-old man is recovering after getting trapped in a grain bin in Clinton County, Ohio. Fire crews from the city of Wilmington were called in to help get the man out on Monday morning. They say they found him in the bin with grain buried up to the top of his chest. They worked to prevent him from getting trapped further down in the grain, eventually poking holes in the sides of the bin to release some of it. The rescue took about 5 hours and the man was taken to a nearby hospital but is expected to be okay. Officials say he's an employee of the farm and was checking the inside of the bin after learning grain was falling out of the bottom. The macroeconomy, including oil, ending the day lower on Wednesday. We'll discuss what that means for commodities ahead. That's next in Analysis. And later, meet a Texas team turning a wrench into cold hard cash in the country.
AgDay is brought to you by Meristem Crop Performance. Learn how to get more bushels for less at meristemag.com.
And today is the last day to enter our Bracket Busters Challenge presented by Case IH. Just head over to agweb.com and click on Bracket Challenge and fill in your picks for the NCAA tournament. The winner walks away with bragging rights and $1,000. You only have until Thursday to enter this 2023 Bracket Busters Challenge. USDA says China bought another 26.3 million bushels of old crop corn on Wednesday, marking the second big buy from China this week. And the corn market seemed to like it a bit. Michelle Rook is back with more in the markets now.
Rich Nelson with Allendale is joining us, and down day in livestock, mixed day in the grains, but certainly we were influenced here in the commodities sector on Wednesday, Rich, by the risk-off in the outside markets continuing, right?
You know, that sure is right. And keep in mind, the stock market, we've removed 50% of that rally we had since October. Crude oil right now, in fact, breaking to new lows for its downtrend, which is almost a month long now. Lowest price since crude since going back to December 2nd of 2022. So certainly outside market was the story for Wednesday's trade.
Yeah, a lot of it has been pushed by these bank failures now actually going over into Europe. So how long do you think this money flow and this risk off in the outside markets is going to continue?
You know, I do think we have probably another 2 days of pressure from the outside market discussion. And keep in mind, of course, this may last until Wednesday's Federal Open Market Committee meeting, the Federal Reserve here next week. So that's still potential. But I think the story for us on grains is questioning how long will this last for us on grains, especially as we have quite a bit of a more news mix here these next few days here.
Right. It clearly did impact soybeans and the soybean meal market here on Wednesday, didn't it?
It certainly did. And I think that's probably where we can have some discussions here. Certainly for soybean meal, which is still being concerned about this Argentine dryness. The trade still expects one more notch down in Argentine production numbers. So that's still a valid discussion in kind of keeping meal at some relatively high prices. Questions for us on soybeans, especially after breaking some chart support on new crop, especially today, gives us a little question mark.
Meanwhile, old crops corn market was able to rally, but we've had 50 million bushels of China corn business the last couple of days. You would have expected a bigger rally, wouldn't you?
You know, we certainly should have. Perhaps maybe a +6, +7, +8 cent trade on this discussion. And it doesn't have to last. If nothing else, it has to be traded psychologically. Now, bears are very correct in pointing out that our export sales deficit might still be overcoming 50 million bushels of new purchases, but we should at least trade a little better than we did on Wednesday.
And were we just up due to short covering again?
Yeah, I do think the wheat story, we're still being plagued by this discussion of the ups and downs with the Ukraine grain talk, whether it's going to be a 60-day extension or 120. So still some questions about that. Also, keep in mind, a lot of us are still waiting on this spring rain scenario to play out right now, which is also a factor at this time of year.
Well, at least we weren't down with the big up move in the dollar, so we'll take that. Thanks so much for joining us, Rich Nelson, with Allendale. More Ag Day coming out.
Ag Day is sponsored by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator steel closing wheels, perfected in conventional, excels in no-till. Order 12 to 16 rows today and qualify for free shipping or 20% off an end zone moisture management package. Don't delay. Enter your bracket today to be part of the 2023 Bracket Busters Challenge presented by Case IH. First prize is $1,000, second is $500, and third walks away with $250. Head to agweb.com right now to fill out your bracket.
All right, we're going up to the jet stream to see where the storms are headed. And of course, off the East Coast, we had that pesky nor'easter. That moves out. Then we have a storm push through the center part of the country, and that is going to drag cold air on the backside with it. And believe it or not, we are going to see lake effect snow on Saturday across the Great Lakes. Then we go zonal and things calm down a bit. But hold on, we have more cold air coming in with this trough out to the west on Tuesday. And of course, an atmospheric river bringing more rain to California, and then this lobe slowly works its way across the country through the remainder of the week. But let's follow the wind gusts because that's pretty indicative of where the storms are. And you can see here we're going to have wind gusts through the Ohio Valley, 30, 40 miles per hour. Not out of the question with that storm. It's going to be a messy storm. It's going to have rain on the front side and some snow on the back side, and including some wind. Yes. Okay, here's Thursday. This is looking forward with our future radar. You can see the storm pushing into the Chicagoland area with snow up to the northwest in Minneapolis, and then that drags a cold front down through the southeast. And on Thursday and into Friday, we're going to see the potential for severe weather slide along the coast here. So you have to keep your eye on that for sure if you're down in the southeast. Here's what we're thinking for Thursday, again, down into the eastern Texas area and over in northwest Louisiana. Then that migrates over from New Orleans over to the panhandle of Texas in terms of the potential for severe weather. All right, let's look at total precipitation forecast for the week. Of course, most of that's going to be on the west coast and under those lines of thunderstorms that push along through on the cold front. And then snowfall, most of that's up to the north because most of the cold air for these systems is going to remain up to the north. And so you'll see snowfall up north of the Canadian border. All right, we're going with 38 in Minneapolis for today and much warmer further down to the south. You got to go to San Antonio to get into the 80s. Florida's actually pretty mild, 77 degrees for the high temperature. Things cool off. A little bit of a lobe of warm air there, but still 21 degrees in Cincinnati. And for tomorrow, there you go, 35 in Sault Ste. Marie and San Antonio, Texas. Look at that, 60 degrees, big difference. Okay, let's go closer to home. Toledo, Ohio, 54 and 44. You'll have clouds and then rain later in the afternoon. Apple, Wisconsin, 42 and 28 degrees with rain. And Naples, Florida, 81 and a low 63.
Ag Day is brought to you by Lamar's Toy Store, the largest and most diversified farm toy store in the U.S. They have new and old and do restorations and customizations too. You need to see it to believe it. Visit lamarstoystore.com or call us at 712-546-4305.
The American Soybean Association Conservation Legacy Awards are brought to you by your Soy Checkoff. Who's replacing the petroleum in asphalt? You are. As your Soy Checkoff, moving soy forward, moving you forward.
Keeping a farm vital and sustainable takes a lot of work, and for one Iowa farmer, it's in his blood, as his family has a long history of soil preservation and conservation. We traveled to Washington, Iowa to meet another regional winner of the American Soybean Association Conservation Legacy Awards. The Vittitos live and farm with a conservation mindset they've held for generations on their 1,400-acre diversified farm in southeast Iowa.
Dad and Grandpa, they did a really good job of laying the groundwork to, build upon from a conservation standpoint.
They've also installed drain tile on 100% of the farm, all with the goal of reducing erosion and improving water quality. But they continue to build on that with their dedication to improving soil health.
So our operation's been primarily no-till since the 80s, and then the last 5-6 years we've really been starting to push the cover crops, and we've been 100% cover crops on all of our acres the last few years.
Cover crops also mitigate soil erosion and manage excess moisture in the spring, and using living cereal rye ahead of corn and soybeans is when they really started seeing a big difference in their ability to control resistant weeds and over time cut their herbicide use.
So we've cut our chemical use by, we're probably close to 75% right now. If you're only using 25% of the chemicals that you were before, all of a sudden that starts to pay for your cover crop seed and whatnot.
Vittitos further their commitment to soil and water management by utilizing nutrients from contract hog production as a source of organic fertilizer. And in 2018, Michael added cattle to the operation, using 100% regenerative grazing practices and fully utilizing the forage from cover crops.
What I would like to do eventually would be to take the cattle and put them out on our cover crops and graze the cover crops, in the off season.
Vittito's goal is to make the farm truly regenerative and return it to the condition Mother Nature intended.
I want to go out and observe what the land is trying to tell me and make my decisions based off of that.
Which he says will make their farm sustainable and further define their conservation legacy.
We're an operation that does a good job with the land, and we're constantly striving to improve things and take the best care of the land and the ecosystem as we possibly can.
Congratulations to the Vittito family, a 2023 regional winner of the American Soybean Association's Conservation Legacy Award. Coming up, one team is making plans for the future, thanks to restoring a piece of the past in the country.
The American Soybean Association Conservation Legacy Awards are brought to you by BASF. Stand tough against Mother Nature with Revitec fungicide from BASF. Uncompromised performance for confident season-long protection.
In the Country on Ag Day is brought to you by Pivot Bio. What if you had the nitrogen you need already on seed? Pivot Bio is the first company to apply nitrogen on seed. The nitrogen you need, now on seed, from Pivot Bio. Learn more at pivotbio.com.
One high school senior can feel pretty confident about his life after high school. That's because of how well he did in ag mechanics at the San Antonio Stock Show and Rodeo. Patricia Para of AgDay's sister station KCBD shows us one Texas teen's masterpiece.
This isn't Cade Clark's first time on a tractor, and it certainly won't be his last. This time, though, it's extra sweet because this 1954 tractor won him some big bucks.
That's going to pay for my college.
Clark won first place in his class, grand champion in his division, and reserve grand champion of all the tractors in San Antonio.
I won 2 welders, 2 torches, toolbox, 2 buckles, and then a $10,000 scholarship.
He didn't do it for the fame, the glory, or even the new welders. He did it for the smiles he knew he'd get when everyone saw the shiny new tractor.
The people I bought it from, they were crying. They were left on the trailer, so I wanted to make it nice for them. And then their son was helping me, and I knew he really wanted to see it new. So
it took 700 hours of work to take it from this to farm ready.
It was like a sense of accomplishment.
He's been in FFA for 4 years and says he's learned a lot.
It's taught me responsibility, a lot of self-discipline.
which will help him in his next steps. After he walks across the stage, he's plowing into his degree in ag business and a future of farming. But first, he has another stock show to focus on in Houston.
I'm pretty confident. There's a couple things I've got to do to it that the judge just told me at San Antonio. Once I get those fixed, I feel like I'll do pretty well.
Patricia Perry, KCBD News Channel 11.
And our thanks to KCBD for sharing that story. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Griffiths. Have a great day.